head popped directly out of my ass. And I heard ego, self-centeredness, selfishness, and pride were like destroying my life. And at that moment in my life, I became extremely scared of the real world.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
All right, what's up, Jay? How are you?
How are you?
Welcome to Saskatoon.
Yeah.
I'm better now that you're here.
Yeah, it's interesting, because May 26th, we were standing outside the Anvil Center before we even did the first event. And I was like just listing off all these cities: Winnipeg, Kenora, Thunder Bay, Edmonton, Calgary, Saskatoon. So it really shows you the power of manifesting, right? So like I'm a real firm believer of manifesting, and I'm a real firm believer of believing in the process.
Well, and I can relate, a person in recovery as well. I came to a place one day where it's like, I'm just going to start doing things, because you can plan your life to death. You can spend your whole life planning and dreaming and being afraid.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of people, allow fear to run their lives, right? So, if you got false evidence appearing real, that's what fear stands for. You're not taking action, right? So you're really just allowing the voices in your mind to tell you you're not worth it, you can't do this, I'm never going to do this, and then you kind of get stuck and stagnant, and something I've always done, almost 17 years into recovery, always tried recovery different. I never stuck to one path, never stuck to one road, never stuck to one journey, never stuck to one program, never stuck to one. I've tried everything on a holistic approach and alternative approach, and that means like sound therapy, art therapy, water therapy, AA, NACA, building my own program called Hype Recovery, motivationally speaking, therapy, counseling, active lifestyle, nutrition, treatment, so for me, that's what's always kept me like excited about recovery.
New things,
right? Is like
moving forward.
Yeah. And then I think I was probably about 60 days, something like that. I was at the Salvation Army Anchorage Boost Center. That's where I went to treatment, down on George Street in Ottawa. And they asked me to speak at this church, and they said, "Oh, we're going to pay $50 in a voucher." And I was like, "Ooh, yeah," because I needed clothes, right? Like, I mean, honestly, I was not in good shape when I came into this thing, just like most people. So I was like, that's pretty slick. So I go down to the church, and I'm waiting. Nope, nobody's showing up. And I'm like, what's going on? But at that moment, I could have been like so hard on myself, like, nobody's coming, I went to the wrong place, I suck, you suck, this place sucks, treatment sucks, no, all that stuff. And I just said to myself, why don't you take this opportunity just to share your story in the church? At least you got a higher power with you right now. And whoever's in this church, if there's anybody, maybe they'll hear it, but at the end of the day, it's you and God right now, and just do it with God. And I shared my story up at the front for an hour by myself, and walked back to the treatment center. Said, I don't know what happened, but nobody showed. I didn't know if I was at the wrong place. I don't know. Oh, and they're like, "Oh, it got canceled, but here's your $50 voucher." And I was like, "What?" And so I went down and got an aggressive salmon pink shirt and headed off to an NA dance and tried to pick up women. I do not suggest doing that, but
especially with a salmon shirt.
Well, they like the salmon. I just don't suggest dating early in recovery. But
it works like 1 in 1,000 times.
Yeah. I just don't suggest it.
No,
you should date yourself first.
Oh,
but that's just me. So what I learned there is I had a voice. So in 2008, at 60 days by myself, I learned I had a voice, and I was hooked. You know what I mean? On a $50 clothes voucher that the Salvation Army gave me. It kind of just manifested from there for me, right? Like I was looking at 5 years in prison for possession of the purpose of trafficking cocaine 5 times. And, I'd come to a point there where it was like, I was getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of jail. Like, so the real world and jail were the same world for me. So I would go to the real world. I would sell drugs. I'd use drugs. I would just be killing unresolved trauma all the time, because I didn't know how to deal with unresolved trauma. So it's not why the addiction or why the alcohol or why the whatever it is, it's why the pain. I didn't understand the pain, right? So I just kept going and going and going and going to kill pain. So then I'd go to jail, and it'd be the same thing. I would just be going and going and going. I would, bring drugs into jail with me, and I would continue the cycle. And I came to a point there where January 7th of 2008, when I got busted for the 5th time, at this point, I had got signed up as an apprentice to be a chef at the Best Western in Kenora, Ontario. And at that point, they bailed me out twice out of jail. So I didn't even, like people saw something in me, but I just could not see it, and I
It's funny you say that. I mean, you must have seen something in yourself, because it was no accident that you ended up working as a chef in this hotel, or being prospected, or whatever that looked like. So there was something inside of you keeping you moving forward. I mean, you were trafficking or whatever, you were making money that way. Why chef? Why not just live the life?
Well, I was always turned on by food by my grandma. So
Mm.
I was like, in the kitchen, she'd always be, making homemade pickles, homemade bread, homemade, so it was really sexy and interesting to me to see something that was nothing come to something, you know what I mean? And so I was really like excited about that. And then I had a food addiction as well. So that kind of really amped that up. And if I thought I could cook, I could maybe eat more or something. You know what I mean? Like, but I remember I came back. It was 2005 after attempting suicide 2 times in Barrie, Ontario. I was with a company called DS Max, and it was a sales company where we went door to door selling trinkets. And, I was really good at it. I was top sales guy a couple of years in a row. And, simply because I know how to grind on the streets, right? Like, I mean, if you know how to grind on the streets, you can get through life. Bottom line. There's nothing that's going to stop you if you've grinded on the streets, right? Like, what the worst of the worst is. And, I came to a point there, though, where I had nothing left in the tank. And, I thought that if I was off into the cosmos, my family would be happier, everybody would be happier. And, it was like a Wednesday, and I remember planning it all out, and I was going to overdose on these pills that this girl had. I don't even know to this day what those pills are. But I told her I'd meet her at the bar on Friday, and I wanted 13 of them. And, that Wednesday, I had one of the best sleeps of my life. That night that I had actually planned out this suicide, planned out, like, I'm okay with not living anymore at 25 years old. I just was done. And I met her, snorted one, took 13. And the girl I was seeing at the time found me in a pile of black puke, barely breathing outside her house. She'd left me because I became abusive, so I started, hitting women and stuff, which is not cool at all. But that's where the unresolved trauma took me. That's where the pain took me. That's where, and I hadn't seen her for a couple of weeks. Like, she left me in her house and took off because I was a mess. Like, I was throwing the TVs around, everything. And out of nowhere, she shows up at midnight.
Why were you so mad?
It's just all the unresolved trauma from my childhood that, a lot of it had to do with my father. I was born Jay Corey. Dad was married 5 times. My mom was married 3 times. My mom was, she did the best she could. My grandfather was a big part of my life. My dad was in and out of my life, right? He wasn't really there a lot. So I think that's where it kind of stems from. And then I just packed on a lot of weight. So I got called a lot of names as a kid. And, Jay is gay and, fat. And, I was bullied a lot, and that really affects kids. Like, getting bullied, it really affects kids. I never wore a pair of jeans until like grade 7. Like, I was in sweats, so I'd always, just get called different names. So I think that really messed up my confidence. It really messed up who I was. I didn't understand. Then, like, in grade 3, when I failed grade 3, I was Jay Corey. Then I came back, and that fall, I was Jay Barnard. My mom got remarried. So back then, divorce was like a taboo thing in the closet. So at the end of the day, it was like, they're like, well, who are you? And then at the end of the day, I didn't know who I was. So I think that's where it all kind of started. And then I got addicted to porn. Well, the first drink was 11 years old.
How was that?
Well, it took all the pain away. Just right away gone, right? Yeah. I just took a huge sip of whiskey out of my grandfather's liquor cabinet, and right? That beat the food that I'd eat, because I'd eat so much food and I'd start throwing up. It beat the porn I was watching. A lot of people don't want to talk about porn addiction. Yeah, my uncle was the president of the Hells Angels, so I was really introduced early to, you can make a lifestyle out of this, right? So once I was able to sell the drugs, now I became popular. Yeah. So I didn't have to be Jay Corey, didn't have to be Jay Barnard. I just had everything I wanted. The only thing I didn't have was myself.
The club lifestyle, that was very present in your life, or were you sheltered from it at that age?
Nah, I was always there.
Because it can get dirty, man.
Yeah, my grandma drank every morning. She'd had her beer in her mug. She wasn't in the club, but I mean, from a scene drinking aspect every single day as a young kid,
Uh-huh.
you know, what's grandma hiding in her cup? You know what I mean? And you take
Mm-hmm.
a sip and it ain't coffee. So, yeah, I did the club life. I did all of that stuff, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I ran the better part of northwestern Ontario as a drug dealer, and I was very successful as a drug dealer. I guess I'm just a good entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I got kicked out of Kenora for selling cocaine. The city kicked me out, moved to Sudbury. When people said go get help, I'd like try and slow down, but there was no slowing down. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was only kidding myself, you know. So in 2005, when I tried to take my life, and one of the worst feelings in the world is like coming back to life after accepting you want to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm already a failure. I can't even kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was there for 3 days. I left there. I went to the liquor store, got a 60 a ride, an ounce of crack, tried hanging myself for 24 hours. And for whatever reason, every time I was on the chair and I put my head in a loop, I couldn't drop. I ended up turning myself in to the Barrie police on driving while under suspension the fifth time, somewhere around 9:30 a.m. Just a mess yelling in the court office.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting a year in Penitentiary. And that jail saved my life that time. Once again, I couldn't stop in the jail, so I kept using. And then I went back to Kenora, and that's where the cycle just continued. I came to a point where I was just pouring cocaine on bar tables, snorting it, and didn't care.
Yeah.
Didn't care. Just take me. Like I was just wanting to be taken, and I was just wanting to die. You know what I mean? I just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And, I woke up in jail, and I just, that January 8th, and that was a Tuesday. And then Wednesday I went for bail, and the judge wasn't there. So I got the justice of the peace, and the justice of the peace released me on a whack of conditions and a bracelet around my ankle. And I had to see a counselor.
Yeah.
And so I'd go see the counselor, and I'd smoke crack in the bathroom. Tell her I can't talk. Just sit in the bathroom, smoke crack. She didn't say anything. And then there was a point there, which was interesting because when I got out of jail, I was on the front of the newspaper, and it said, J. Barnard caught with short pursuit. So I guess I rolled down a hill, and they tried running after me on the ice.
That counts as a pursuit.
They got me pretty fast. So that wasn't very good. And then also the hotel that I was at, they're like, you can't do this anymore. I was like going to the union. What do you mean I'm not messed up?
So you didn't know you were sick?
Thought it was normal. I didn't realize I could have a life like I got today. When I went and saw her, when Counselor Sandy Paul, she mentioned to me there's one house left on the block. It's treatment. I don't know if you're going to succeed. It's God-driven, but I think you should go. And I lost it, right? Because I was like, why are you sending me somewhere where I'm going to fail? And I failed my whole life. My whole life is a big failure. And, she's like, just go try it. But I didn't know at that time that she was planting the seed that maybe I could be something in life. Like somebody cared. You know what I mean? She cared. And then, I remember I was so high, the phone rang. She's like, you're going to get a phone call from the treatment center. You need to pick it up. And I remember seeing the phone ring. I was living in my dad's basement at the time. I was so high. I saw the number. I open up the freezer. I throw the phone in the freezer, and the freezer just starts going. The freezer's shaking. And then I go back into the freezer, grab the phone, and answer the phone, and it's the treatment center. And they say, you got a bed February 11th, 2008. And then I used right up until February 10th. And then, ironically, the system's really an interesting one. Basically, on the 11th, they cut my beeper. And they said, you got to get yourself to treatment, which I live in Kenora, Ontario. So Ottawa's in the middle of Ontario. So it's all across, basically across the middle of Ontario. So I took whatever drug money I had left, hopped a Greyhound, right? And then my parents were gracious enough to pay for a ticket, plane ticket, get in a cab, go down George Street. 6 drug dealers swarm the cab when I get out. Cab driver says, oh, it is over there. Go over there. It's the homeless shelter downtown on George Street. I'm like, where am I? And I rolled in, and they're like, okay, we got to piss test you. And, I'm like, did you use? No! And so I piss tested, and obviously it was positive. But I was like, I don't remember you guys saying 72 hours. You can't send me back next door. 6 drug dealers just swarmed. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. And I was telling the chaplain, Nick, I was like, Nick, honestly, I don't remember you guys saying, and to this day, I don't remember them saying it.
Mm.
So, and Nick's like, I think he's telling the truth. Let's keep him.
What did you learn in the treatment center?
Luckily enough for me, I had a spiritual awakening. A lot of people don't get those. They don't
Mm.
allow them to. They don't give themselves permission, right? A lot of people just don't give permission. They want to control everything. You have to give yourself permission to do stuff,
Mm.
and that's when you'll get like the nuggets of life. And they're like, you're going to go home and see your family. And at this point, I still had a girlfriend that owned a bar in Kenora.
Mm. Scared?
Scared wasn't even the word. Like, I was panicking. I think I was starting to kind of see a different life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, I was going to the gym, I was eating right, I was hanging out in AA and NA meetings. So I kind of had a fellowship, and I was working the 12 steps. I had a sponsor. I got myself on EI, so I had a little bit of money, so I wasn't spending the money on stupid things. I was going to like movies and swimming, and I went and saw a couple of my old friends, and they're still doing their thing. Getting high, getting drunk, and I'm like, I can't. Don't do that around me. I'm like on a pass.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I saw for the first time, because I had pretty clear eyes, was that my family loved me. And that's something I never saw before. I never saw, my family went through a lot with me. And,
Mm.
I actually saw my mom and her husband and my brother and my grandpa, they like really did love me. It was something I never really felt before,
Mm.
so um it was a good trip. It was a good trip, an eye opener. But then I went back to Ottawa, and I was on the Pink Cloud, and like, if you don't recognize the Pink Cloud, you're gonna crash, and I did, and I ended up going to a bar 3 nights in a row. Third night, I go in, and I actually go right to the bar and order a Budweiser. Out of the corner of my eye, I see bus 11. I drop the beer, run to bus 11, get back to the treatment center, lose it on the treatment center, lose it on the counselor. Yeah, this place sucks. You suck. I can do better on my own. Bah, 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 bah. I'm out of this place. And I actually took my stuff, paid $40, went to the airport, back in a cab, back to the treatment center. So if you want to talk about unmanageability,
Mm.
so I'm now back at the treatment center after I said I'm going to leave, yelling at them again. And Giovanna just says, Jay, simply go write down all the things you've changed. If you have a problem with that, ask people around the treatment center. Like, I've changed everything, and I got into my room and there was two things on the paper. I'm going to meetings and I'm clean and sober. At the time I was saying I was clean and sober. And I was like, this can't be right. Like, I'm 120 days here. So at that time too, I became a bully. My anger was really bad. I didn't know how to funnel that. So I got in a couple fights in the treatment center. So I went back to those guys. They just said, oh yeah, JJ, you changed. Boom. So that instant gratification, like taking a hit, taking a drink, that's what you get, an instant gratification, right? But then the other counselor came and said, Jay, look at yourself. Your life's unmanageable. You're walking around a treatment center asking people if you changed. And at that moment, my head popped directly out of my ass. And I heard ego, self-centeredness, selfishness, and pride were like destroying my life.
Mm.
And at that moment in my life, I became extremely scared of the real world. I went downstairs and begged. I was crying. Don't kick me out. Don't kick me out. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes. I've held down jobs and stuff like that, and I've done things, but I was just really scared that I couldn't do that.
Mm.
And then just really fearful that,
Yeah.
right? And I remember I went upstairs. That was the first time in my life, and I got down on my hands and knees, and this prayer came out. This prayer came out of nowhere. I was probably just amalgamated everything that, and I said, like, whatever it takes, please just help, and then this came out, God, give me the strength, courage, hope, and faith. Keep believing in me, trusting me, having faith in me. Keep loving and caring about me unconditionally. Give me patience, tolerance, understanding, forgiveness, compassion, and acceptance of other people's struggles along with my own. Let me love myself, like myself, care about myself enough to move forward in a positive direction. Let me be comfortable with who I am and what I'm doing. Let me live in the day, the moment, to live on life's terms. My Lord, I turn my will and my life over to the care of you today, and guide me in my recovery. Never give up. Keep living the dream.
That just all came out random.
Went to bed, best sleep of my life.
Mm.
I woke up, and all of a sudden I look in the mirror and there's like this smile. And like, I surrendered.
Mm.
So the definition of surrender is like giving it all. And at that moment I had to give whatever I had because I was a mess. And then from that day forward, the next day she's like, you're sitting here and you're listening to what everybody says. I mean, people had not good things to say about me. because I was not doing well in there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 4-month program. I left at 5.5. I
Mm-hmm.
got myself set up for second stage, stayed in second stage for a year. I really went long term. You couldn't put me into a house. A house was too big. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't just go from a 30-day spin dry, spit you out program into a house. I'd be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I actually need to truly do long term, really understand. I needed to have that Baja moment. And, that Baja moment led me to Robert Ware at the Liberty House, which was a second stage home. And he's a mentor of mine still to this day. And he taught me the alternative way to recovery. He taught me that, you don't have to do meetings. You don't have to do this. There's other ways to recover. And I was like, what? Right? So, the program of AA and NA, that's not a bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Just that I couldn't see long term. I couldn't see a life beyond recovery going there, and I wanted a life beyond recovery. I didn't want to be the guy that was saying I'm an alcoholic and an addict my whole life, because every time I did, I was always reminded with, oh my God, that's the crack pipe. Oh my God, I did this. Oh my God, I did that. Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I had flipped it and I started saying I'm a healaholic. I'm healing from my trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So because I started saying I'm a healaholic, I was very positive. I'm like, I want to heal. I'm a healer. Like that's what's going on. And anyways, yeah, he started teaching me different stuff. I started branding myself as Chef Recovery at that time in that house. And I was still looking at this 5 years in prison. So that was still looping on me. I'd got myself re-signed up at Algonquin College to finish my apprentice to be a chef, which was a very interesting trip because I had no money and I was just completely honest with the college. And the college was like, Jay will help you. Can you do a video for us about, your life?
Mm.
And it was the first video I ever did. Then my lawyer calls and says, Jay, I don't know how this is going to go. You're up 5 times possession of purpose of trafficking cocaine. It's a lot of times, Jay. We know you're doing well out there now. But you have this, it's a 50-50 chance you're going in for 5, and, you just got to accept that. And I was like, oh, for about 2 days, I really beat myself up. But I came out of the 2 days and I went, you know what? You did the crime, do the time. Dude, you can't run no more. There's no more running. If you surrendered, you don't run. You
Mm-hmm.
ran your whole life. That's why you are here where you are right now. You ran. And when I did get out of treatment, I had $66,000 in unpaid fines. Had a mess. I couldn't get a license. I couldn't get credit. I couldn't nothing. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm 28. 5 is probably 3.5. I'll be 31, 32. I get out. And I accepted it. And I went back in September of 2008 for sentencing. Judge Fraser was like, where's Jay? Yelling, screaming, gray, yellow, spitting, ripped clothes, yes sir, no sir, wearing a suit. And he's like, I've never seen anybody work so hard for their life in 9 months. 5 years turned into 18 months probation. And he allowed me to go back to fulfill my dream to be a chef. Now, the interesting story about Judge Fraser, and God bless him, and I love him to death, is he was my judge my whole entire life. And that man saw something in me way before I ever saw anything in me. You know what I mean? He gave me chance after chance after chance. I remember he said, Jay, you're at the fork in your life. I'm giving you one more chance. And I understood right then at that moment, like if you're willing to help yourself, others are willing to help you. I didn't understand that. Like if I'm willing to help myself, all kinds of people are willing to help me. But if I'm not willing to help myself, how does anybody know I need help? They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know I'm sitting in the bathroom smoking crack or meth in an outhouse. They don't know these things.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to Ottawa and started fulfilling my dream to be a chef. That night, I actually tried out for Route 66, which was on the Food Network. It is now called Diners, Dine-Ins, and Drives by Guy Fieri. And I made the top 30 on that show out of 300 people. I never made TV, but I made the top 30. And at that moment, I was like, maybe I can be somebody. And then just little things started happening. I got jobs at the Delta Hotel. Chefs started taking me in. I started like really branding Chef Recovery. I really started talking about my story. I really became loud about recovery. 6 months, I hit social media and was just talking about my recovery. All these cool things I kept trying out for TV shows, Great Canadian Chef. And the first time I ever graduated, I graduated with honors in my chef program. And that was a pretty phenomenal feeling. Feeling of accomplishment, like a good accomplishment, you know, like you stuck through this, dude. Like you stuck through this. And then all of a sudden, Ron Ead does a complete front page article on me. And then all of a sudden, my whole entire career takes off. I start getting booked to speak. I'm getting paid to do this now. You know, I'm like, how did this happen? You know, and you know, I had a fiance, you know, I went through, you know, we broke up and stuff. And then I had the opportunity to move to Fort McMurray. And that's really like where my mom and her husband were living there. And I was going through some rough times in recovery, and I'd got addicted to the casino, and, you know, and, I went and took $50,000 and put it down on a condo that I was just putting up. They're like, where did you get the money? I won it at the casino. I was addicted to the casino. So I'd built myself out, 66,000 in unpaid fines, paid that all off. Got all this credit. I was still thinking I was a drug dealer because I had all this money. Didn't realize that you had to pay all this money back. You know, you just gave me all this credit. What do you mean I got to pay it back? You know what I mean? Still had that old mentality. And ended up going back in 80. So I won the 70, put the 50 on the condo, spent the 20, racked up 10 credit cards. That's $60,000
In recovery.
in recovery.
How long?
It's 2 years in.
2 years in. Let's take a quick break.
Yes, sir.
Read off today's sponsors. Okay, Wellness News Choice for Healthy Living is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals locally, allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. EHN Canada is Canada's leading provider of mental health and addiction services, providing evidence-based, medically assisted care with 1-year wraparound services for those suffering from substance use disorder. To learn more, find their link in the show notes below. Métis Nation Saskatchewan has announced its path for the pursuit of self-government. As an MNS citizen, I am proud to see my government fight for my rights. This is our moment. To learn more about the treaty and our path to self-government, go to ourmoment.ca. Pine Lodge, the treatment center I went to 7 years ago when I got sober, offers inpatient addictions treatment and aftercare programming in Regina, Saskatchewan. To inquire about services or make a donation, call 306-510-1891. To make contact or learn more about today's sponsors, to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all those links are also in the show notes below. So, something that you kind of glazed over here, and I want to go back, and maybe we got to go way back. But you talked about porn addiction.
Yeah.
And then you followed that by saying no one ever talks about porn addiction.
Yeah.
And then you didn't talk about porn addiction.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
So how did that
well, I found my dad's stash, my stepdad's stash in his room. There's a whole bunch of VHS tapes, and the moment I found it, I was like, what's this? And then all of a sudden I just was like, wow, that's interesting. And then I just couldn't stop watching.
And did that carry out throughout your life?
Pretty much. And then it messed up every relationship I ever had.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was like, whatever I watched, I was, trying to reenact, which is, you can't do it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as, I'm not a Ron Jeremy, or Peter North, or whoever you want to say.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? Like, it messed me up. I couldn't hold a relationship.
That follow you into recovery?
Yeah, it followed me for probably 7 years. I've been in 3 long-term relationships in recovery. So I was with Sarah. That was my second fiance. And I was with Julie, who is the mother of my daughter, Destiny, who was just the beautiful thing that saved my life. And then I was with Ashley. Like, I became a celebrity chef in Fort McMurray. And I started doing some real big things for some real big people. And I had the opportunity. Doors just kept opening, so I wasn't afraid to go through the door. Like, oh, there's a door. It's Snoop Dogg. Oh, there's a door. Leonardo DiCaprio. There's a door. Wayne Gretzky. Oh. And I was lucky
enough. You
cooked
for Snoop Dogg?
Yeah. Hey, chef, chicken and waffles. And then I came into the room, and it's just all smoky, and I'm like, Snoop, where are you? And it's chicken and waffles, yeah. And
in Fort McMurray?
Yeah. Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, Travis Tritt, Dwight Yoakam, a whole bunch of people. And so I got to see this different world. But that world brought me to a whole new person. It allowed, like, my speaking career just took right off. everything took right off. Chef Recovery took right off. Media was all over me. I was now doing really well in the speaking. I was traveling across Canada, and Julie sends me a picture, and it's we're pregnant. And Julie and I never lived together. We did this fly in, fly out thing, and I got out of the car and just started puking because I was like, what the heck, like, I didn't know if I wanted a kid, and, like I was 34, 35, right? And then Julie and I had Destiny, and we had to go to Winnipeg, and Julie had to have a C-section, and I almost lost Julie and Destiny at the same time. Destiny came out purple. They cut her artery, and Julie, she almost bled to death. I remember celebrating 10 years, and I spoke in Ottawa. And after the talk, I was like, nobody got anything. I was in my room, and I'm like, I'm going to go home. If I look at Destiny and I don't feel any love, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I went home. I hugged Destiny. I looked at her, and I was like, what the fuck's going on? I'm feeling love. And I planned to hang myself. So I went to the same place my best friend hung himself. It's by a dam, and the dam wasn't on. It was like the quietest day ever. And I'm getting ready to jump off the tree, and all of a sudden the dam opens. Bam! Water just comes flying out. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Whoa, what am I doing? And it got me out of the trance, and I just got scared, like super scared. And I went and saw Sandy, the counselor.
The same counselor?
Same counselor. Yeah, we're still in contact. And I said, this is what I was doing. And she said, well, what's going on? And I just went through my whole life, and she's like, have you ever said you're proud of yourself? I got a $10,000 tip from Gretzky, $7,500 tip from Shatner. Never once did I stop and say I'm proud. Right? Because when the Delta Hotel back in 2011 said, Jay, we think you should go see a relationship coach. And I'm like, I got great relationships with women. Right? And they're like, no, Jay, yourself. And I'm like, oh. So they sent me to this relationship coach, this lady. And this relationship coach talked to me, and at the end of an hour spiel, she's like, it's $1,000 a month. I was like, here's my credit card. And I gave her my credit card. And it was the first time in my life that I made an interest of an investment in myself. Right? And all of a sudden I became this sponge. And I wanted to know everything. She was talking about thinking, thoughts, patterns, triggers, series of events, boundaries. I'm like, what are these words? What are the... Well, what's my biggest problem? My thinking, which leads me to my thoughts, which leads me to my patterns, which are my behaviors. I have to remodel my behaviors. If I don't remodel my behaviors, what's going to happen? Right? So I was like hearing all these things I wasn't hearing in the rooms. And I was like, what is going on? And I was happy. Like I was just starting to genuinely get happy. You know what I mean? Because I was like, holy, I think I just found gold for $1,000. Like, I stayed 2 months with her. I paid her another $1,000. I paid her $2,000. And I couldn't pay $2,000 at that point. That was my credit card. And then I went back to the rooms to my NA meeting, like 65 days later. What do you think the first thing they said to me when I walked in?
Welcome back.
Did you relapse?
Same thing.
And I was like, do you even know what a relapse is? What do you mean? You'd be used. I was like, no.
Yeah.
You actually plan the relapse out way before it happens.
Yeah.
End result is you use. Well, you're going to speak tonight. Oh, sure, I'll speak. Right?
Yeah.
So I told them what I was doing. This is what I've been up to. You're doing recovery wrong. You're going to relapse. Blah, 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 blah.
Still, after you tell them.
Yeah. So I left. Never turned back. That was 2000, end of 2010, middle of 2000, somewhere in there. And I started this journey of discovering all these alternative ways to recovery. Then Ashley came into my life. Ashley and we became Canada's recovery couple, and we started sharing all across Canada. And now all of a sudden Ashley and I are doing podcasts. All of a sudden Ashley and I have our own TV show. All of a sudden Ashley and I are traveling, speaking. All of a sudden, so August in 2021, I met Brooke for the first time. And then Brooke found me on TikTok, and then Brooke was like, hey, I'm starting this and da-da-da. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I have a program. Can we work together? And Ashley and Bob, my mentor, and Sabrina, and we also we took everything that was out of my mind and we put it into this program called Hype, which is Help Your Personal Effort. Launched it on my 5,000 days in October 18, 2021. And I was like, holy cow, am I going to get to the biggest dream now? Right? Like the biggest dream was what you see today with Empower to Recover Foundation. In 2015, I did a TEDx talk. And when I was at that TEDx talk, I looked around me and went, man, if I could just ever gather up lived experience individuals from all walks of life. I don't care who you are. I don't care your color. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care. Everybody's got a story. The common bond with individuals is unresolved trauma, and stories are connection. That's it. And if somehow I can do this with people, this is going to be really special. And number two, if I can get community assets, so from businesses, products, services, information, knowledge, like the alternative way to recovery. If I could get them all underneath one roof, we could have a real spectacular day in every city across Canada, maybe US, UK. So then I go to Brooke and Carl. Carl came into my life then, Carl Heath, energy-wise. And Brooke had been with me for about 6 months. And I said, I got this idea. I got this dream. It's big. Like, I don't want to scare you. And I said, I want to call it Empower to Inspire. And this is what we're going to do. And just everything I said, travel the cities, do this, do this, do this. And I want to build this network. This, it wasn't called the ARN at the time, but I want to build this recovery network where it's easier for people to get access, help. And so Brooke went and looked for the name. She came back to me, said, Empower to Inspire is gone. What about Empower to Recover with the number 2? I was like, holy shit. Yeah, bye. In 2022, I was like, okay, let's start traveling. We're doing the recovery days, and Brooke and them were at like Soberfest, and we were really promoting it. And, we're going to do our first event November 19th of 2022, and we had to cancel that event because we weren't ready. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh man, here we go again. Like, am I going to lose this? But because I manifest, and because I have motivation, and because I have passion, you don't lose anything. The setbacks in life are actually the go forward things in life. You have to have a setback in order to move forward. You can't just always be moving forward, right? Because you're going to miss life. Sometimes life says you got to be set back to understand where you are, right? And those setbacks will teach you to keep moving forward if you allow it and give yourself permission to do it. So we buckled down. 2023, we launched our first event, May 27th, 2023. Dream lived out. 120 people showed up.
It's not bad.
And we raised $14,300. And when I looked around, I went, that's pretty cool. A couple days later, I start getting booked to speak again. So I get booked to speak in Calgary. I fly out to Calgary. I'm too excited to share about my life story. Like, this just happened, So I'm sharing about, Empower to Recover in the event, and how, and they're like, are you going to come here? And I'm like, is Canada open to this? Like, is Canada really open to a loud guy like myself that just doesn't stop? Are they open to that? And are they open to hearing all the different ways of recovery? Are they open to the alternative way of recovery? Are they open to the fact that there's just so many different ways to recover? Not every foot fits the same shoe. Everybody has their own path. Not everybody's recovery is the same. Can we bring organizations, businesses, and products of all shapes and forms and sizes under one roof? So apparently you can. I fly back to Kenora, and I booked the first recovery day, September 15th of last year. And we sold it out, 216 people. Second event. First event as a national non-for-profit. Became a non-for-profit July 25th of 2023. And raised $26,500. We sold out the Silver Springs Golf and Country Club, 150 people. And we raised $16,000 there. In that period of time, that's when Ashley and I broke up. Also, I was going through a lot of stuff with the old business. After the event, I came home. I tried hanging myself again. And once again, God sent a gift. And somebody showed up at the fish plant at 6 p.m. when they shouldn't have been there, asking me what I'm doing. 15 years and a bit into recovery. And then the team kind of sat with me and said, Jay, you need to take care of yourself. And I was going into this hip replacement. This stuff. We just passed 6 months with this hip replacement. And so I'd just been praying and manifesting a rebirth. All the unserving crap in my mind. Like, things that I don't need there. Right? Like, preoccupied about spent time stands for past. Why am I sitting there? I can't change it. I have to accept it. I have to forgive it. I have to let it go, right? And then I got to get to a place of learning, loving, living. I wrote a rebirth letter. I wrote a surrender letter. And stuff on that letter were like, I never talked to my dad for 14 years. I was allowing past relationships that I had to still affect me. And as I was like watching everything around me kind of rebuild, rebrand, reboot, everything kind of else was, shedding off. I was becoming this new person, right? Like I needed to become this new person. I needed to really just become me and put everything underneath one roof.
Mm-hmm.
And so February 27th, I had surgery, and I read the surrender letter and rebirth letter right on the operation table with the doctors and the nurses. And I was looking at that surgery like, when they put me out, that means I'm dead. And when I wake up, that means the rebirth. And in my mind, after I read everything that I surrendered, it stays on that operation table. And when I read everything that I want from the rebirth, from being happy, it doesn't matter where you are in life, Jay, you ask for help. There's no more suicidal idolization stuff. There's no more of that. Your life is way more important than that. Not just for yourself, but you got a daughter. And you got a lot of people in your life that care about you, but more importantly, you care about yourself. So it doesn't matter where you are, you ask for help. And, making amends with my dad, call my dad, making amends with my grandma, making amends with people, start loving myself, really loving myself, caring about myself, accepting, forgiving, letting go. Allow the process. Don't get in the way of the process. Start giving myself permission.
That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Stay out of the way, Dan.
Well, you got to just give yourself permission. That's control, right? So we want to control things. And when we control things, it just becomes chaos, but we like chaos.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, man, this feels normal.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I noticed about you really early on. It's like, you don't like, you genuinely, and at first I thought you're full of shit, but, and maybe I still do. I don't know.
Here you go.
But you're like, I don't care. You're like, I don't care about money. I don't care about money.
Yeah.
You want this? Sure, take it. I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, put your banners up. Go ahead. Do it.
Yeah.
There just seems to be a component of like, you just have no desire to do it alone. No desire. And like, I can resonate deeply with that. Like I still like to hang on to things and control things and stuff like that. But when I'm climbing this mountain and I reach the top, I will have failed if I reach it alone.
Yeah. That's it. Like, and at the end of the day, it's pretty lonely alone.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, so I wake up an hour later and I'm like, that's interesting. Full on hip replacement in an hour. That was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, I guess I had the rebirth. I'm laying there, and so they wheel me back to the recovery room, but they move me up too fast and my heart rate and my blood pressure drop. I almost have a heart attack.
Mm.
I'm in the tunnel. If you've ever been in the tunnel of overdose, at the end of the tunnel, there's light. That means you're going to see Jesus. Jesus is opening the door for you. That's what's happening there.
Hello.
Yeah. Come on in. Right. And then you have all your friends there that are up there waiting for you and all that stuff. So at the end of the day, I'm halfway down the tunnel and I see this white silhouette and I'm like, what is that? It looked like God to me. This God that I know. So I get to it. And then, bang, I wake up and I'm like elevated and they got me wrapped up in cold towels. And I'm like, what is going on? So I actually had been like manifesting like a rebirth, like a real rebirth. I'm like, please just kill me and bring me back. That's it. Please just take all this. I want all this. What you have to do is you got to kill me and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Please. That's all you got to do. Please. Mm-hmm. And don't kill me forever. Just, take me out for a bit and bring me back. Right? That's it. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Essentially, I got it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I go do it all. They fill me up with a bag IV. And as I'm like, she's pushing me out of the hospital and I hear the hospital door close. It's just so loud. I'm hearing it. I just feel like this ghost come off of me. And I felt so light. Like, so light. A couple days later, I get my U.S. waiver after 15 years of trying. Got a $10,000 check donated. Then all these amazing things started happening because I was staying out of my way. I was just allowing the process to happen. What I learned is that if I have enough, that is enough. I don't need any more than enough. Why do I need more than enough? So you talk about how I always want to, I want everybody with me. That's my enough. I don't need anything else. I've had everything else. All that other stuff that I had before, I sold it all for this platform. 2010 Challenger, everything. Sold it all.
Mm.
So we go do our first online event. We do that February 11th, which is awesome. We do a global online event, celebrate my 16 years. Amazing, raise $1,000. Then we do Timmins. I'm 6 weeks out of this hip surgery. They're like, Jay can't go. Doctors are telling me Jay can't go. I'm like, Jay's going. You know, they're telling me I can't drive. I'm driving at 20 days. I'm like, you know, I'm not telling anybody I'm driving, but I'm driving. You know, you cannot keep me down. Like, this is not. But you know, I drove to Winnipeg, which was 2 hours, and I had to go to sleep and pull apart parking lot because I was burnt out from driving. And then I like just went to the hotel and slept. And I was wondering, like, should I go? Got a cane. I gotta go to the airport. Get pushed around in a wheelchair. Like you want to talk about powerlessness and getting out of your way and allowing the process?
Mm-hmm.
Have yourself in a wheelchair all day at the airport, and other people pushing you. Because they just leave you in the corner and come back and get you. Right? And I was like, well, I guess I'm just supposed to sit here. This is where I'm supposed to be. Anyways, by the time we get to Timmins, my leg is stiff. So my leg is straight. And I can't bend it because I've been sitting all day and my leg, you know, like... And I'm like, how am I going to drive? Because it's my right leg. And I get to the car and I just hit my leg. Bam! And my leg just goes bing, bong. Just like that. And I'm like, guess I can drive. So I drive to the event, and then I'm like, wait a second, how am I going to put my socks on, and how am I going to, like, I can't bend over. I can't physically bend over. So if you remember correctly, I said I was going to ask for help no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens in your life, you're going to ask for help. If that means somebody having to wipe you because you're in a bad spot, well, that's the case. You're going to ask for help. Well, this was one of those cases where I had to go into the hallway and humbly ask somebody to put my socks on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just so happens that somebody was a nurse. So God had presented me a nurse for this trip that said, every morning at 7 o'clock, if you want to come down to the pool, I'll show you how to do exercises so your leg gets better for this event. And she did. She helped me put my socks on. Day of the event, it's snowing. Everybody's like, nobody's showing up. And I'm like, no. Snow brings out people. So yeah, sold it out. 226 or 28 people. Kalichi came to town, hip-hop artist out of the States, great guy. And, you know, I was hobbling around. Time I get outside, it's 8 p.m. at night. It's sunny. The snow is gone. And E2RF brought the biggest love bomb to Timmins that he had ever seen. And I was told to stay home. And it was another moment in my life where I went, I'm glad I did that.
So did you get out of your own way, or did you get out of God's way?
I allowed God to do it. I just showed up.
Do you give all grace to God?
Yeah. I don't get in the way.
Yeah.
I know I need something more than me,
Yeah.
or else I'm hanging myself.
Yeah.
So if I'm in my way, I'm killing myself. If I am in the driver's seat steering, I'm killing myself. That's it. It's bottom line.
You got to give yourself some credit for being a passenger, though.
Yeah.
You could jump off the bus.
I'm proud. I'm proud of everything that I've accomplished in life.
Yeah.
I'm proud of all the amazing opportunities, all the amazing relationships that I've ever had in my life, all the amazing people. Like, I really am truly living out a dream today. Like, talking about Saskatoon, we're coming into our 6th city and our 4th province in 13 months as a national non-for-profit. It's the largest event we've done.
364 tickets?
No, I think it's 84.
384?
Yeah.
Oh.
15 community assets. 20 different speakers. You know, that's the one thing I learned through this November last incident of me wanting to not be here anymore, to really understanding I needed a rebirth and, you know, and a real rebrand and a rebuild. And, you know, I'm in a good spot in my life today. You know what I mean? Like I said, I have enough. I don't need any more than enough.
Where can people find you?
www.empoweredtorecover.com. That's www.empoweredtorecover.com. And then I'm on every major platform. If you're not seeing me, then I don't know what you're up to, because we're out there live and in color. So either you're in the hole or something's going on. And if you are in a hole, please reach out. We'd love to help you. The way we see it is that we give everybody help. It doesn't matter who you are. I don't look at anybody any differently than I look at myself, and I'm no better than anybody else. I just want to give some love, kindness, and compassion. And to me, really, it's about showing the statistics of hope today.
Mhm.
We know the statistics of death. We don't have to talk about that anymore. We know what's
Mm.
going on. We need to share about the statistics of hope. We need to share all the amazing statistics of hope and all the amazing stories from all walks of recovery so that everybody knows that there's a different pathway to recovery. Because it doesn't matter what your pathway to recovery is. If you're doing better today than you were yesterday, you're succeeding.
Mhm.
You're living a better life.
Well, man, I'm really looking forward to ripping the lid off with you tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to being on that stage with you and just love bombing our whole town here and
Yeah.
letting people get up and share their voice. And
Yeah.
it's going to be great, man.
Yeah.
So, but thanks for joining me today
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
podcast. This
Yeah.
has been a great talk.
Yes.
And that's it. All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, if you got anything out of that, please hit that like button at the bottom of the screen. If you're not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. I'm all about fostering productive conversations about substance use, and I can't do it alone. So leave me a comment. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you didn't like. If you think Jay's full of shit, let me know. Tell us all the things. We can take it. We're tough. That's all I got for you this week. Take care.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.